Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Mike. Front row, I know you can do it. Front row is always it's always a shock, but you can do it. Wonderful. It is so lovely to see a number of my, I should say, fellow pilgrims here. All right. We might be okay, Victor, but let's see. And Victor, would you better close the door when you're able? Could you better close the door? Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. I think I'll get us started. There is, of course, always more cake, and so we should celebrate the gift of Pentecost. And there are a smattering of more seats, and then Victor will put out some more if you need them. I'll open us with a prayer, if I may. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious and holy God, we give thanks for the gift of your church throughout the world. And on this day, we particularly give thanks for the people of Holy Cross Anglican Church in Soweto, for the people of South Africa, for our friends across the waters in Tanzania, and all of those people who will celebrate this day, giving thanks for the freedom from fear that comes with the peace that you give us. May we know that peace reigning in our hearts and being shown forth through our lives. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Well, this is such a delight to be able to share this time with you. I'm going to work very hard. I'm going to actually ask Jeff if this is the moment to darken the room if you could, if you're still there. I think Jeff's there. We'll find out if the room darkens, he's there, and if it doesn't, yes. Will it go down? It's happening as we speak. He's going to try. He's going to try as we speak. I will try to move through this. Naomi and I are going to tag team. And then there's a number of folks who are here who went on the pilgrimage. I wonder if they would raise their hands so we can get a sense of folks in the room. What a great gift that is. And I've invited them, if they wish to share any reflections or thoughts they have toward the end, very informally, and there's no pressure at all. But if any of you would like to, you would be most welcome. I think when we went there, we realized that we were part of something, an experience that was very special. And part of our desire is to share this with our parish church. And for those of you who are viewing this online and will view it later, we give thanks we're able to share it near and far through the gift of technology. Should we get a hammer, Jeff, or you're okay there with it? Is it going to turn off? He's figuring it out. At some point, it'll get dimmer. Oh, look at that. Oh, I think the hammer was enough of a threat for the machine heard me. Had the perfect hammer. That's it. Thank you, Jeff. So this is a beautiful sculpture. I won't get into great detail with each slide like this, but just to note, this was in Johannesburg at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Gardens. Because Monica was traveling with me, I managed to take us to the other botanical garden first. We saw two that day. It didn't seem like the place we should be at, which was very nice, but not quite the one we were looking for. So we went to this second. And it struck me because for my, interestingly, I just came back from South Africa 23 years ago. I stumbled across a sculpture in Cambridge, England, that looked a lot like this. And because I was annoying like that, everybody else had a very ecclesiastical-looking cross and so on. I had a naked man, the picture of sculpture that I shared here and far and wide to announce my ordination. It went downhill from there. But anyway, that's where I started. So I love this, and it's sculptures that you'll see all around. But that title is obviously quite intentional. Grace Under African Skies. That I felt, and I imagine many of our pilgrims felt, that we were recipients of grace. And one way of thinking about grace is that God provides more around. It's actually what Kalibu was preaching about in part this morning, that the Holy Spirit creates more space for us. I love that idea. It goes ahead of us to create more space for us to step forward without fear. That is an extraordinary thing that happened in South Africa, continues to happen, with all that country faced, to find a way out of no way. to move forward. We were recipients of a profound gift. So with Naomi, you just say something like, "Get out of my way," or whatever you want to say when you want to jump up here. So we began, so let me just share. Underneath, the parts that are going to be in quotations are from a Eucharistic prayer, from enriching our worship. It's one of the forms of Eucharistic prayer that we offer in the Episcopal Church, and we use it here at All Saints. And I use that as a framework for some of these slides, because it reminds us of how through that Eucharistic prayer, we're sort of doing a tour, if you like, both of salvation history, but also of our theology. And that God has filled us and all creation with God's blessing, that we're knit together in one body. So here we are, we're in limestone caves. Now, who can remember, how many millions of years were we talking about in there? Anybody remember? We didn't say there'd be a test, but here is the test, remember, because lots, at least 10 million, as many as 10 million. Yeah, incredible. That was our beginning. And Stephanie Baker, I'm going to show her in the next slide. She was an extraordinary first days teacher. I'm posing there. There's a reason for why I want to show that picture. That little skull fossil, I'm proud to say, is called Simon. And at last my moment had come. And the reason is the person who excavated it was called Simon. And let me show what they excavated. So there is Stephanie. So the place is Drimmelen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, within the cradle of humankind. It's a beautiful park, if you like, just, I think, north of Johannesburg. This is Stephanie Baker with Simon, that you can see me there. And that team that she led discovered the world's oldest Homo erectus fossil, 2 million years old. Remarkable finding. And so we had this beginning that reminded us of how much we are held in common. And the beautiful thing about Homo erectus is that particular Homo erectus thrived ultimately because they diversified the way that they lived and their diet. They were not sort of stuck in their ways. In many ways, the thing that we celebrate here in America, the gifted diversity makes us stronger, helps us discover who we are. Turned out that we discovered that 2 billion years ago. Isn't it wonderful how history keeps on repeating itself? So then we move to Soweto. But we fail to honor your image in one another and in ourselves. We abuse one another and rejected your love. And at some point I'm going to lean on Naomi here to say a little bit more, but I want to highlight the 3 pictures. This is from a poster, I think in the Apartheid Museum, if I'm right, in case you can't see it. "What are you doing in the house of God?" asked the white man. "I have come to sweep the floors," said the black man. "Oh," said the white man, "for a moment I thought you had come here to pray." If we go to the other side, we're here. This picture is taken in Hector Peterson Square. And Naomi, I might ask you in a second to say something about Hector Peterson and the significance of where that is in Soweto. Before she does that, this is probably my favorite photograph. I mean, it's not going to win any photographic prizes here, but it's what it represents. I like the guy very coolly sort of leaning here, but it is, you see their top right Tutu residence, and then you see the Mandela Family Museum. And above that, Nobel laureate walk. Vilakazi Street is the only street in the world that has been home to 2 Nobel Peace Prize winners. And I gotta say, it felt like we were walking along holy ground to be there, but it would be madness for me to talk more when we have with somebody whose home was right there, Naomi Tudor. Could you share a little bit about what we're seeing?
Okay. So on our second day, some of our pilgrims got to meet the young woman in that picture, Antoinette, who was Antoinette Peterson, and her little brother is the young man who was the first person to die in the Soweto uprisings. And the young man carrying him, Mbuyiseli, was then hounded by the South African police until he fled the country, and he has never been heard of since. So his family has been searching for him. They knew that he left and went to Nigeria, but that was the last that anybody heard. And so the story of the uprising is kind of captured in here, where Hector wasn't supposed to be at the rally because he was an elementary school student, and it was supposed to be high school students only. And so when his sister saw him running, she told him that he shouldn't be there, and then the next thing she saw him shot. And so the Hector, and amazingly, that happened up the street from our home and the Mandela home. So that street holds a lot of South Africa's story of resistance, of hope, of despair, all in, 100 yards? So, yeah.
So this is part of, we're there in Mandela House is here, the Mandela's residence. So you can see, which is most of the time, that would be Winnie Mandela and their children, because Nelson was spent very little time there. Here, where Boise is one of our wonderful local guides, is in Hector Peterson Square, we think. And then, I wonder if I could bother you again, but there was to say a little bit about the sort of future vision of the person named here. We heard a story from her past about how she ran. I think it was from that very day, or another time perhaps. She ran from the police, and don't think of the police as in the Atlanta Police Department. Think of the police who might, shoot you while you're running. She, as she was running, one of her shoes was lost. She got home, and the shoes were very valuable to the family. And she got, I think, in trouble with her family, and that led to tears. And yet she was fleeing for her life, just imagining how the people in those communities were seeking to continue to do things like go to school and to remember, clean your shoes and be prepared for a school day living in such circumstances. But I was so moved by the vision, the sort of the future that a family friend of yours represents.
Right. So this young lady is Lerato, and actually, she's not a family friend. Her parents, no, I'm joking. It was just that her parents were my friends, and on Vilagazi Street, and she has taken her family home, did a catering course, and is using people, but also that while we were there, she gathered dancers and singers for us. So while she is making money herself with her restaurant, she is also encouraging others in the community to use their gifts and talents to also have an income and improve their lives. And the food was delicious. And I think some people got the chakalaka recipe. It wasn't as good as my chakalaka, but what can we do? I wasn't catering.
You can buy Naomi Tutu's chakalaka after this forum, small jars. What struck me about this also was that it's easy, isn't it, perhaps, to go to a country like South Africa. You focus on its past and you focus on the struggle. But what we also witnessed is the profound level of agency. I wonder if you've ever had a time when you've struggled in your life. Frank, I'm having one this week. But when you've struggled in your life and you've sort of had to find a way through, imagine what it's like to do that with all those odds stacked against you. It's a powerful witness that Soweto, you see in Soweto the economic growth, growth of enterprise, social entrepreneurship. You're seeing a people becoming a sort of an engine, a powerhouse for the growth of not only the city and the country, and it represents so much. So I wanted to really highlight that we went and saw agency, not just history. So here we are, the group. I'm not going to, my favorite thing about this picture is that not everybody, you'll be able to see here, not everybody was happy about going to church for so long. I love it. You can see it for yourself. But there we are outside Holy Cross, Soweto. So that's the Anglican church that in many ways has been a church of the family, of the Tutu family. And we were there. This was a large part of the reason for going to South Africa, was to begin this partnership. And we don't have a global missions committee. We don't have a global outreach committee. We have a global partners committee. And in a partnership, it is a two-way street. And we are very clear that we have a lot that we can learn from them. So talking of Eggleston, there's a piece of the roof. This was a planned event, by the way. But when I thought to myself, what can I offer as a gift to this church that would be meaningful? And I was thinking, what could it be? Well, I chose the cross that was gifted to me at my installation, or my celebration of new ministry as the rector here. And it's a cross made out of the original roof of Eggleston. So it was a very personal gift, and I thought there's nothing more that I can think of that would represent All Saints than a part of our fabric. And so the priest there of the church is praying over that. You gotta love this in action shot of Naomi Tutu showing us some moves there. But it's more to come. It's just to sort of lead the way. You have filled us in all creation with your blessing and knit us into one body. What a beautiful, again, to raise up Kalabu's sermon, what a beautiful expression we heard this morning of the ways in which we are called through the Spirit and enabled through the Spirit to be one body. God cannot be held back by whatever sort of categories we want to choose. So the saints go marching in. For whatever reason, you always seem to pick Alan. Alan's a very good, kind man. He's got to be here this morning. Isn't Alan not here? He was here this morning. They have discernment. You see, you can't stop him. He's everything. But Alan seemed like the right candidate for this member of Holy Cross to take into her arms and lead the way. And again, you can see there's Jiffy clapping. All sorts of things were happening to Episcopalians in this church. And what a gift. I wonder, Naomi, could you say something about that top right picture, myself, yourself, and Monica there, with the children?
So can I, before I even talk about that, I do want to say that it was a culture shock for All Saints to be at Holy Cross for a couple of reasons. One, the service was, 2.5 hours? Almost 3. We kept it short because there were guests, okay? And then within the service, at different points, there is singing and dancing. And people will come up in the midst of a hymn and dance. And it is about how do we glorify God? And we glorify God with everything that we have, our voices, our feet, our hands, the rhythm of our bodies. And we're going to talk about the rhythm a little bit later, or the lack thereof. Whatever, okay? But one of the things that we do in South Africa in almost all, at least black Anglican churches, is that there is a blessing of the children after the Eucharist. And the children come down, and in most churches, there are probably more children than there are adults. So here, we are blessing the children as they come in, and it is with, again, dancing and music that they come in and are blessed by the clergy, and it is such a key part of the service of Eucharist to remind us and the young people, what an integral part they are of our community. Yes.
Just on Sundays. Alan's not. He's not afraid. He already felt the Holy Spirit. That's right. That's when you get full of dance. You're like, it is just me. Happened to me before. And then after the service, some beautiful pictures here meeting the youth of the church. That's what we were arranged for to do. And there's some, again, beautiful one-on-one conversations there. And I love the facial expressions and the body language. And again, just this sense in which we went there in so many ways to learn and to grow through learning. And it's a wonderful thing to learn with the youth. Naomi.
Yes. And you see that the girls are wearing different colors. So one of the things that our church has done in much of Africa is to acknowledge the importance of age groups in the African culture. And so we have different guilds for young people as they move in the church. So the blue is the St. Mary's Guild, the purple is the St. Agnes Guild. And the children will start in Sunday school and then keep going and getting more and more responsibility in the church as they go up in the guilds, much as they would do in our culture through the different ceremonies of different age groups.
Yes, they have rosary beads there. Wonderful. Thank you, Naomi. So now this, I don't know, I've got to warn you about this before I press play. So marching in the light of God, Episcopalians, this is video documentary evidence here. The only thing I want to say about this video is that I was dancing while I was taking it, so it's possible you'll get seasick. But this choral society, actually, no, could you briefly say, because it's this very significant choral society in the country.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, this is not a church. So Imilonji Kantu is a choral society that was founded in Soweto by a group of people who loved music. George Mkatana, who is their director, has an amazing voice himself and has composed some songs that we heard at their rehearsal. So they meet on Sunday afternoons and rehearse. They sang at President Mandela's first inauguration. They sang at my dad's enthronement as Archbishop. They sang at my dad's funeral, which was quite something because we were in the midst of COVID, and so they had to be in a different in a church hall to sing for the service. And so this is the one where I was saying that we're going to see rhythm, or at least rhythm chasing people and people running really fast to get away from rhythm.
I've been looking for a phrase all my life to describe my dancing, but rhythm chasing is awesome. All right, so I don't know if this will work, but if I do this, let's see. All right, so there's them. Feel free to sing along if you want to. Very good. All right. That and it. Apologize for how laggy that is with the system, but anyway. So we traveled then from Johannesburg up to Cape Town, or down to Cape Town, I should say. Sorry. South Africa is an extraordinarily beautiful country, and there's a part there. There's a place where we stopped. Naomi, I can't remember the name of the location. Do you remember? Hope Bay. Chapman's Peak. Wonderful. Chapman's Peak is there. And you can just see how picturesque it is. But receiving the gift of beauty, for some reason, Naomi got one of the most picturesque places to speak. I'm sort of down in the corridor somewhere, but she's giving all the nice places to speak. But it was wonderful. And in so many ways, those are the kind of memories that you treasure. Even if you can't, like me, you can't remember exactly where you were. Just the gift of that beauty, not only with the sort of natural habitat, but the wildlife. So toward the left, we saw penguins. There's a beautiful place where we saw lots and lots of penguins. That is, the view in the middle is from Table Mountain in Cape Town, which is extraordinary. And that's a picture from the safari. That's just after the lion looked at Monica, thinking that maybe there's a snack for me. So there we are. So now we move to Robben Island, and I will invite Naomi to say a little bit, perhaps about the significance of the people that were there in Robben Island. I believe in the middle we've got on the left certainly have Nelson Mandela. Is that Walter Sisulu? With Walter Sisulu. On the left side is Nelson Mandela's cell. And the only disappointment I had is that when I was there 23 years ago, you could walk inside and place your feet. I commend to you really poignant picture of President Barack Obama standing inside, sort of standing where you see the window there. There's another picture, I think, when Nelson Mandela, as president, visited and stood in that very spot where we here have stood thousands of times. An incredible image. But you get the sense of the very small amount of square footage that he lived in. And then this is just an image that as beautiful as it seemed to us, and it's a beautiful island, Robben Island, and there's wildlife, and this, that, the other. It's a place of brutality, a prison, and the limestone quarry was an exercise in futility. They would take the prisoners there daily. To quarry limestone that would be used exactly for nothing. Wasn't used for anything. It was simply to engage in them in that arduous task through all weather. And many of the people who were imprisoned in Robben Island there for any length of time suffered damage to their eyesight because with nothing to protect their eyes, the glare of a limestone quarry you can imagine. are there things that nothing more to add? If you get a chance to go to South Africa, one of the most powerful moments was to hear it will remain the case for some time, but not forever. Your tour guide is somebody who was formerly incarcerated there. And our tour guide, the cell that we were in, I'm going to guess, my fellow pilgrims can tell me if I'm about wrong. My guess is up to that second window, maybe the third window, the second window. About this space would have been a space that had as many as, was it 60 people? And you can imagine the conditions. And on the wall, somebody had painted or drawn an image of Jesus. And I remember back in my Oxford days when Naomi's father came to do a mission in Oxford, he said the apartheid government was so short-sighted. They'd ban all of these books on Robben Island, but the one book they missed out was the Bible, the most revolutionary book, liberatory text ever written. And what was the name of was there a name for the university, or there was a learning community? The university in Robben Island. So they utilized their time such that when they were finally ultimately released from incarceration, they were prepared to be leaders in their nation. Each one teach one. It's a remarkable story. If you have any opportunity to learn more about Robben Island, I commend it to you. It became the engine room for a free South Africa. And let me just read that. You delivered us from slavery, sustained us in the wilderness. It is a story of people sustaining each other. And I would like to believe sustained by the love of a gracious God in the wilderness. It was a wilderness place for them to be one day delivered from that slavery. And raised up prophets to renew your promise of salvation. So this is, I love this stained glass window. My comment to Naomi when we were standing up and looking at it, so in the center there, we're in St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town. That is, of course, Naomi's father, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. That I feel like he is looking down saying, over to you. And he looks kind of somewhat stern there, as in, I'm serious. There's work for you to do. But let me read you this in case you can't see it. This is certainly what I remember as a young student, the kind of humor that Archbishop Tutu had. We may be surprised at the people we find in heaven. God has a soft spot for sinners. His standards are quite low. Even us. And, it was with all of the trouble that Naomi Tutu has given me from the pulpit, particularly here at All Saints, it was a profound gift, and that's not an overstatement, to go on this pilgrimage with her and to see the country through her eyes, and you'll see in a moment, to be inside a place that was her home. And it's not like it was only a gift when we're there, and then when she comes back here, it's like, well, Naomi. That Naomi has been a gift to this church from the moment she started here. So it's a real gift, and so I had to get this documentary evidence of the two of us there smiling. But this is a wonderful, a culmination of a wonderful evening, which we'll have a little bit of later on. That was the end of the sort of of our first part of the pilgrimage there. Anything you want to say? No, you don't. Okay, fair enough. I would just add, without belaboring this, but as a person growing up in the Church of England, and the pilgrims heard me say this at some point, growing up in the Church of England and going to theological college in England, and of course the Tutu. How many years was your father in England? 7 years altogether. Specifically, Desmond Tutu was a revered figure, and considered to be a kind of a bar for us to seek to sort of be, not simply for clergy, but our understanding of what it meant to be the church. It's hard to. I have discovered there's a particular relationship that happens that the Church of England has with the church in South Africa and with Desmond Tutu specifically, that is a little different here. So for me personally, there was this sort of, I felt like I'd had this foundation of appreciation, not understanding, but just in terms of what he meant to that church. So there is the arch. These are images taken from the Desmond Elliot Tutu Legacy Foundation. The Truth to Power. This, the image of him there, that is on Table Mountain with Robben Island in the background. Am I right about that? And this would have been after 1994, after the recent. So, a free South Africa. It's a powerful image of the sort of prophetic witness of the church that, we shall overcome one day, we shall be free. And then at the top there you see there's a beautiful book. Is it called The Book of Joy? Co-authored by Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. Not a bad pairing, if you ask me, if you're looking for a book. And then, now I'm going to force you now to say something. Tell us a little bit about this image. I don't know if you know, you may know exactly what it's of, but at least your dad's engagement in political life.
Right, and so this is actually a funeral for activists who had been killed by the police. And we were constantly at funerals for people killed by the police. And this in particular, I think I remember that this was at a point when they had started the thing that they called necklacing of people who they considered traitors, and that is that they would put a tire around the neck, pour gasoline in the tire, and set it on light. And this, at a number of funerals for activists, my father was telling people that we can't be on the right side of a struggle and be doing things that are wrong. We can't simply take our lead from those who are oppressing us as to how we are going to act in our struggle. So.
I love there's a familiarity if you ask somebody in the church, and who's the arch? It's Desmond Tutu. And there we are in St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town, where you can see Desmond Tutu's slab is laid there. And then it's a beautiful space within the city with a lot of history, of course, and the seat of the Archbishop. And there we are in the Tutu home. That was a particular treat to be there. That is not, the Tutu home is not a standard sort of stop on the tourist trail. We had a special access pass. And to go into his, there's the living room, and to be in a place where a family tried to live out a regular family's life, when the door was closed, and to sort of continue to be a family. There's some wonderful stories. I'll invite you to ask Naomi another time about the time spent in this chapel and packing in the family. This is a chapel that was built in the families just adjacent, but on that property. And there's the prayer desk that Desmond Tutu would say the Eucharist every day that he was there. And in his office, just lying there, was some mail. Bishop Desmond Tutu sent from Swaziland. Just a beautiful glimpse, a sort of intimate glimpse into an iconic person's life. There we were, the Desmond and Leah Tutu Foundation. You may recognize up here next to Jiffy is Tandi, Naomi's sister. It was lovely to hear some back and forth between Tandi and Naomi as two sisters sparring with each other during that evening. And there we are touring, trying to understand and learn all we could about the struggle for freedom and for hope and for justice. And that's the sort of our final evening there. And then in the fullness of time, you sent your eternal word. If you remember in John's gospel, through the word made flesh, all things came into being. He revealed your glory. And so there we are, You can ask me another time how Monica was convinced that this particular creature, which we had chased all day, was going to eat her, which I thought was kind of entertaining. But it came towards her in the Jeep and looked right at her, and she said, tell the kids I love them, or something like that. And then it disappeared. It walked under the Jeep right where she was. I think it thought, not going to be tasty. So went under the Jeep, carried on. I'd seen it all before. But it is just a spectacular part of the world, and there we are exploring, that we might see our glory in us as well. And there's a lovely picture there of Arvara with a friend that goes back to college days, I think it is. High school days. At the high school days at the National Cathedral. It's such a lovely gift, and that happened there are multiple people who had friends they could share this journey with, and it's such a great gift to all saints that we can have that kind of experience. And there's no better advice than Winston has behind him there, be kind. I do want to give thanks specifically for Winston, who not only took lots of wonderful shots, that's not me doing selfies when I'm in the picture, that's Winston taking care of us, and did that when we were in Tanzania, but then organized them. I was only actually able to put all this together. Half the pictures are his. To be able to, that's one thing to have pictures, but then to actually organize them by place and date is a great gift, and we're so grateful, Winston. At this point, I know that Naomi's going to need to scoot in a second. Are there any members of the pilgrimage who'd love to just share a word? There's no pressure here, but even if it's just a few moments of reflection that you have, and I'll share the last slide is this one, or you have any questions of your own. We're back there where we began in the Walter Sisulu Botanical Garden in Johannesburg. Yeah, Winston. And I'll ask you to use the mic because our folks online won't hear us otherwise. So close to your chin.
So I think we all came back with maybe as many questions or as many things to unpack as more than even when we went there. But I was struck by something. We actually went 2 different places that had history of Desmond Tutu. And in one of them, there was a little clip of him doing a sermon, I think in Soweto, and he said something to the effect of, I want you to know, I've read the book. Meaning the Bible, and we won! And I actually want to combine that with what Kalebu said today. I have felt for a long time that I don't want to give up on the idea that the Holy Spirit is still moving among us. And South Africa still has huge challenges. Nelson Mandela is not there anymore. Desmond Tutu is not there anymore. They're still going through a struggle. It's not the same one, but they're still going through a struggle. Many of us feel like we're going through a struggle. I don't think we'll ever not be going through a struggle. It may be easier sometimes than others, but I think that's always the case. And looking for God's grace and remembering that we won.
I love that. Thank you, Winston. That's great. Do you want to come to the front, Harvey? Yeah. Harvey.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone. It was an amazing trip. Carol and I loved it, but in particular, my journey here started hearing Simon in the park saying, "All are welcome," and that had a real resonated for me. And I sat down and I listened, and it resulted in me joining. And I left and went on this trip with other members of this church. I came back with many, many friends. I can't thank you enough for how welcome you made me feel.
Thank you, Harvey. That's wonderful. Marie, do you want to come forward? Thank you. So we don't get crooks in our neck. Marie.
It's okay, yeah. So I want to echo something that Winston said a second ago about the fact that South Africa went through their own struggle, and a lot of the things that we were learning about while we were there, we see happening in our own country today. And it's hard to be here and experience what our government is doing to a lot of people. But to see South Africans have come out of that in some way gave us a lot of hope that the fight is not worthless, and that it's very important that we keep standing up for the things that are important to us, because it may not be next year and it may not be the year after that, but after a few decades of fighting, South Africa came out better than before they went in. So it's hopeful from that perspective to know that it's not all in vain. So.
Thank you, Marie. And if anybody else would like to share a thought? Yeah, Alvaro.
I'm sure y'all all realize this, but Naomi is a world citizen. She has homes everywhere. The people, I mean, I don't know how, she was educated over here, she's worked over here, but when she went back and with her people in Africa, I mean, she was one of them. She is just a world citizen, and it was wonderful to see that and experience that.
Thank you. Any final comments you want to share? Yeah, Jan, you want to come forward?
Hi, I just want to reiterate what an extreme privilege it was to go on this trip with these people, with Simon, with Naomi, and Brooke, who helped guide us all. The first night we were there, Simon said, if you have questions, ask Brooke. And we did. But it was a huge privilege, and just going through this again gives me a lot of gratitude, so thank you.
Jeannie.
Just real quick to echo Winston and Marie, the hope, but not only the hope, the fact that the people of South Africa could come through these shark-infested waters that they've come through and do it with joy, and not just after the fact, but in the midst, they held on to joy. So for me, I walked away with a renewed commitment to not give up hope and to hold on to joy. It was powerful.
It is very hard to argue successfully with a joyful person. It's very hard to win a conflict with a joyful person, because they're not going to join you. They're going to be joyful. Well, I'm just going to check because there's I want to make sure you all sleep at night, because I really wanted to say that and didn't get the chance. Carol, that's it. Come on now. Now come down the front. And Carol got us singing. There's no surprise there. We got us singing on this trip.
Well, I want to say, when I tell people about this trip, there's all the things that you've said, and then I go, we spent a lot of time in prisons, because you didn't show the one in Johannesburg that we went to, which Mahatma Gandhi also had been in long before Mandela. So I always thought Mandela was just in the Robben Island, but he was there 18 years, I think, but in others at various times and then Robben Island. And the joy that the man that was our guide at Robben Island, he was like 19 when he was convicted, and 20 when he went in. And I've had the thought that those firsthand people are not going to be there. I think you kind of mentioned that, to tell that story from inside. But my favorite part of his story was the each one teach one, because some of the men who came in did not know how to read, so others taught them how to read. And then what he was saying is that they were taught political theory and how to react, and what they needed to do. So they not only kind of had a little school of teaching them to read, but also the political savvy they needed on the way out. So I kind of countered this with, we spent a lot of time in prisons and learning that, but then we went to church and we sang at every moment. Every time there was movement, the older women in the group came up. We sang for that. The children came in. We sang for that. They got us up to sing. It was that prison joy singing that sort of brought the whole thing around for me. But it was great.
Richard.
just offer you a little transition. When we went to the Church of the Holy Cross, and it was where the massacre of Soweto occurred in '76. This June 16th is the 50th anniversary of the massacre where you saw the little boy killed. So I know when we were at church, I know Harvey, y'all got adopted while you were there. I have 2 little boys. I got to find their address. They wanted us to adopt their grandchildren and children, I think, to pay for college. But, you know, I was saying we need to wait to see what our partnership is going to do. So your transition here, are we going to do something for their 50th anniversary, and where's the partnership headed?
Yeah, and I'll close with that if I can. So as I mentioned in the earlier, I think I said we have a global partners committee, and I want to extend an invitation. If anybody would like to be part of that, to join that committee, do let me know. And we have a series of priorities that have been named for us by our partners in Tanzania. And we have some less developed priorities with a partnership that's just beginning, of course, in South Africa. And because we want to lead with relationship, the first step in that relationship will be for clergy to come here from South Africa. And that is tentatively in the works. And there's another part of a partnership to help one of the students that we met there to complete his Anglican studies, for him to be ordained to the priesthood, so to support the local church there. We tend to navigate our partnerships by being led by the partner, but that we can understand that leadership better when we grow in relationships. So it's a long-term thing, and it's a wonderful thing, and I do encourage you to be part of it. It's very much how we've also how we go about our core ministries, that we're led by the relationships, and from that we understand how we might be of support. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for each of you who have shared your thoughts. I would want to encourage you to pray for the church in Southern Africa, and any opportunity you get, either for yourself or to nudge or support somebody else, particularly a young person, to go and see a part of the world. Go take it. Help them go take it, because I'm convinced that's what helps us make the world smaller and more in communion with one another. So thank you. And I think maybe our last round of applause have to be who is it who, yes, that's right, out of Madrid, that if you have a problem, ask Brooke. That's my rule of life. But if we could offer a round of applause for Brooke and Thanksgiving.